For the hoodie, you need 0.3 meters of fabric. I'm using French terry today, but jogging fleece would be good as well. You need approximately 0.25 meters of ribbing if it is this smaller width of ribbing, and you will need a zipper as well. So we're going to start with the fabric, and we're going to do what is called a double fold. And so what I've done here is I have a fold here and a fold here instead of folding it right in half. And this fold is approximately 15 centimeters in distance. And what you want is you want the top of the fold and the bottom of the fold to be the same amount, which these are. And then you fold the other side so that it meets this fold here. So these are our raw edges. These two edges are our selvages, and they are meeting together here. And then we have a fold line and a fold line. So you're going to start with the back piece, which goes on a fold. So that's going to go on the fold line on this smaller area here. And then all of the rest of these pieces have what is called a grain line arrow. And so they do not go on a fold, and you're just going to line them up on the other side here. And with the fold, you simply pin on the fold first, and then you pin the rest of the pattern. And generally you would pin corners. You'll notice I'm pinning at right angles, and you want your pins inside the pattern so that you do not need to move them when you go to cut it out. So I'm actually using a total of 5 pins on this piece, 2 on the fold line, and then 1 at each corner on the pattern. Now with these pieces, we need to measure to make sure that the grain line is straight. Grain line's really significant when we're making clothing so that it hangs properly on your body. So what I do is pin one end of the grain line, and then I'm going to measure, and I want the other end of the grain line to be the exact same distance as the top. So I just shifted it slightly so that it is the same, and then I'm going to pin that end in place. And I'll do the same with the others, measure the grain lines and pin them, and pin around the edges on them. And when you're finished, you're going to cut these out. So the piece that's on the fold, you'll notice a little, what they call this a notch, this little black piece at the top. So you want to cut around that, and then cut along the cutting line, the outside edge of the pattern, with long, smooth strokes with your shears. Now we're going to do the ribbing for the hoodie. And so to start with, this ribbing is made in a circle, and we actually need to open it up. So cut one of the fold lines and open that up. So then you're going to fold the one side just enough so the wristband fits on it. And it's important that you put this in the right direction. We want the stretch going across the wristband because there is not as much stretch on the vertical. So the wristband is going to be on, you need 2 of them, so this is doubled, so there's 2. And then the waistband is going to go on a single layer. You need 1 of those right beside the wristband. So you've actually got a little extra fabric here, probably 0.1 meters would be enough. Now, I could measure this. I'm going to eyeball it. I basically want the side of the pattern to line up with the fold line here. And so because it's quite close to it, I'm just looking at it. If you need to, you could measure that and make sure that it's straight. And so we're again going to pin and then cut these out. The next step is to mark the markings on the pattern that we need to see on the fabric for when we're sewing. Some of these pieces don't have any markings. The back doesn't have anything that needs to be marked, and neither does the sleeve. The wristband does have a fold line, which you could mark. And I've got here some options. There's chalk pencil. This is a tailor's chalk. Neither of these are a good color for these fabrics, but even if I had a good color, I would probably use my friction pen on these because it's quick and it makes a nice fine line as well. So you can mark the fold line here. I often don't because it's right in the middle, and when you fold it in half, that's where the fold line is. So it's up to you. If you mark it, just do a mark on each side, and you want to mark the wrong side of the fabric. So on this one, the wrong side is on the outside. And so I would just look where that fold line is, make a mark on the one side, and then because there's two pieces, you have to make sure you mark both of them. And I would do the same thing on both sides for this one. And this pen is a friction pen. It actually comes right out if you use steam from the iron on it. So easy to use, although it's a good idea to check it on your fabric before you use it, just to make sure that it's going to come off. So on the hood, again, we have a fold line. So this is the French terry. So the wrong side on this one is on the inside. Now you could put a pin through, and then where that pin is, that's where the fold line is, if you feel like you can't tell easily just looking at the lines on the pattern. And again, I would mark one on each end. I would not draw the whole thing. If you wanted, you could put a pin through in the middle and just make a mark there as well, just so you know exactly where that is. Then there's a buttonhole here. So this one, I am going to use pins, and I'm going to put a pin on each end of it. Now the buttonhole actually gets sewn on the right side. So I'm going to do my markings on the right side. And I suspect I'm going to have to remark this because when I do the buttonhole, I'm going to be reinforcing it and using the iron, so that's going to take the marks off. So I will remark it. The opening for the ear is optional. I'm not going to do that on the bear, on this particular bear. So if you do want to do that one, you can mark it. I will say that doing a long buttonhole like this is a little tricky, keeping it nice and even. And so if you're a beginning sewer, I don't recommend that you do that one. So that's all the markings that I'm going to do on this one. So I've got the fold line and the buttonhole. And then this is the shirt front. And the only thing I need to mark here is this dot. This shows where the bottom of the zipper is going to be. And I'm just taking out enough pins so I can get at that to mark it. So I put a pin through, and then I just mark on each side of the fabric where that is. The other thing that needs marking is the waistband. And actually I'm looking at this and it's using notches instead of dots. So because they're cut out, I don't need to do any markings on that. So now we're ready to start sewing.